I don't think women in society are privileged. So
You don't think women are privileged? Do you think men are privileged?
they historically are. It's proven.
Okay. So what right do you think men have?
What do you mean it's
Wait,
proven?
Let me just have a little back and forth here.
Like we're
So,
in
do you-
a shifting form of patriarchy.
Okay, so do you think men have more rights than women?
I'd say now they've gotten pretty equal, but there's still like lingering patriarchal connotations that need to be wiped.
What's the patriarchy?
The patriarchy is, well, by definition, it's like a society that kind of oppressed women and like promoted, like was in favorance of men.
A patriarchy is a society that oppressed women and is in favorance of men.
It has
Did I get
been
that
like
right?
historically, yeah.
Okay.
Patriarchy was historically societies where men were in charge and women were.
What percentage of men do you think were in charge?
That's a good question. I couldn't tell you.
Okay. So if I told you that less than 1% of men
I'd
were
believe it.
ever in, it's probably way less than 1% of men.
I'd believe it.
So, okay.
But I also think there's still not enough women
under this
representation.
patriarchy, under this supposed patriarchy, are women oppressed?
Yeah, they were.
Are women oppressed in the United
Modern
States?
day, like now,
Yeah.
not like they used to be. I think we're exiting oppression, but I think, like I said, like it's just like, I'm trying to think of how to phrase this badly. It's like I don't feel women in society this day and age are still oppressed, but I feel like it was so recent that it lingers, and we as women still need to like work our way to the top even more. We are still not entirely equal in certain sects. We now have the ability to be, but it's going to take time to get there. For instance, we only represent like a small percentage, like 19%, not even, of all of like Congress, and much less in the other sects of leadership.
Well,
in
let
the
me ask you a
country.
question related to that. So if male politicians pander to women voters anyways, what does it actually matter?
Like, since we're voting for them, you're saying?
So male politicians typically aren't pandering to, for like,
Pandering? By pandering, I'm sorry.
they pander to women
like
for
appeal to
women,
us?
appeal to women's
Yeah.
emotions,
That's
appeal
funny.
to their various causes. It's
Okay.
very rare that you've ever heard a politician ever appeal for anything that relates to men's rights or anything like that.
Oh.
So truthfully, it wouldn't even matter.
Well, I disagree because there are politicians that are in favor of and promote big business, and a lot of those big businesses are run by men, so it perpetuates the patriarchy.
Okay, so that's a bunch of word salad that you just threw out there. So are women oppressed under this patriarchy?
This day and age, I think our modern laws are not oppressive, but I think we're still recovering from a formerly oppressive patriarchy.
Okay, so how were women oppressed?
We didn't have the right to vote. We didn't have the right. Now women finally own more homes than men. We didn't have the right to a mortgage till recently, till like 1973.
Didn't women not want the right to vote? Correct me if I'm wrong.
I don't believe that's. I think they fought for the right to vote.
Well, it's interesting. Women were able to secure the right to vote without the corresponding responsibility of being subject to forced military conscription.
I mean, I
That's
don't agree
how
with
men-
that. That was imposed by men.
Okay, it's always victim blaming, basically.
Men are victims now.
No, it's like this weird victim blaming thing of like,
Victim.
well,
Who's the victim?
whose fault is that? Well, it's men. So
Men are victims.
Well, in an
So
arena,
you are a victim. I empathize.
I would argue that in a lot of ways, men are victims. For example, men are much more likely to be incarcerated. Men are much more likely to be homeless. Men are much more likely to commit suicide. Men are much less likely to go to university. Men are much more likely to get a higher education.
Men have a higher rate of sociopathy and sociopaths.
That's
and
actually not
psychopaths.
true. They
it's
recently
proven,
there's
and
a
they
new
are
study.
in jail more.
There's a very recent. Would you make that same argument when it comes to race?
What?
Would you make that
does have to
same?
do with-
Would you make that same argument when it comes to race? You're saying
have
men are
no
more
idea.
violent. You're saying men are more violent.
No, men are
therefore,
like literally diagnosed more often as psychopaths and sociopaths.
you realize
It is something they're born
you
with.
realize criminality is a very, very small percentage of men.
In jail, the population is estimated to be 10 to 20% psychopaths or sociopaths when they make up less than 1% of the world, and it's
Right,
primarily
sure,
men.
okay, dark triad, mental illness absolutely
cool.
contributes
Glad
to
we're on the same page.
criminality.
Cool.
Okay, so I don't even know, like you're so, like the way you argue is so fucking weird and annoying. It's like
You're
hard
welcome.
to engage with you. Okay, so I listed a couple ways in which men are disadvantaged.
Okay.
I can give you some more. So also men upon birth, a lot of them in this country, most of them in this country are, they have no bodily autonomy, so they're circumcised.
That's
And I think that should be
reasonable.
something that,
Okay.
you should be
able to choose.
able to consent to, perhaps when you're 18. So there's a few. And then of course there's the forced military conscription. So, I mean, yes, if you actually were to add up the ways in which men are disadvantaged and compare them to women, I'm actually prepared to make an argument that men are more disadvantaged in a myriad of ways than women are.
I'm sorry you feel that way.
It's not how I feel.
Killer of Cereal donated $100. A white male, a black female, and a half Asian, half Native American hermaphrodite all grew up in the same household. They all get the same benefits in life. White privilege is a myth.
Thank you, Killa of Cereal. You said in a kind of flippant, dismissive way, you said that you're sorry I feel that way. Well, I don't just feel that way.
Because you said, I don't agree that you are more oppressed, but if you feel you are, then I authentically empathize with you for what you feel is
okay,
your
so
plight.
I just listed out
Yeah.
a bunch of ways that it's not just how I feel men are experiencing life. It's actually statistically proven. There's studies, there's data that you can look at.
I rebutted
So
to the jail study. I didn't.
you didn't
the jail-
rebut.
the jail statement, but there were further on that list. So
Let me ask
I
you.
understand.
Okay, let me ask you a question. Do you feel that African Americans are victims of a sort of systemically racist system when it comes to incarceration?
yes,
Okay, so if we look at statistics, then we can actually make far more. How about actually let me walk it back a bit. Do you think that the police misconduct, police brutality, police killings of African Americans is evidence of racism or systemic racism or racism in this country?
it has been.
Okay, so what if I told you, if we were to, for example, if we've made comparisons of police killings between white men and black men per capita, what if I told you that something that blows that statistic way out of the water is the discrepancy in police brutality and police killings between men and women?
So women are less likely in general to get.
So there's an even bigger gap. So if we're comparing white to black, there's an even bigger gap between men and women. So would that then be evidence of systemic sexism?
If the data represents it, then yeah. I don't know the exact statistics.
I've just provided it for
I know
you.
you didn't give me exact numbers and figures. No, I don't know.
Okay, well, here's an example. There are more white men who are killed by police than there are women who are killed by police of all races combined.
But there's more white men in America
There's-
than other races of
No,
men.
I said all races of women combined. That includes
Oh,
white
women.
women.
Okay, no,
it
I
includes
misinterpreted
black
what you
women,
said. I didn't
Latina
hear you
women,
right.
other.
I
Okay.
first is woman.
Yeah.
Got it. Then that
Okay.
stems back to the point I was stating before about how men have a higher rate of sociopathy.
Okay, so take
and
that to its
psychopathy.
logical conclusion. Are you prepared to make that same argument for against black men?
That
Are
they have
you-
a higher rate of
in order
sociopathy and psychopathy than women? Than
No, than white men. You need to be.
No, I don't think that.
Interesting. Okay, so you're basically
They've been like targeted by the police historically. It's proven, like it's documented, it's proven. But I mean, we can agree to disagree on that if that's how you feel. Like I've seen like the videos, I know of the data, I know, like I don't know the exact figures, so You could educate me on those, argue with me on them, whatever floats your boat. But I know that, like, yeah, there is systemic oppression that's affected African American people. Yeah, by police. Like, there's been racist police brutality.
There has been, but do you think just because, for example, let's say a black man is killed by police, does it necessarily mean he was killed because he was black?
No, it doesn't mean that. It doesn't guarantee that.
Okay.
But it's happened.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay.
Cool.
Oh my God, that's like ridiculous. Should I just restate my position? And I feel like you've failed to actually make a compelling argument.
I feel like the conversation just ended out of nowhere. Like, what point are you trying to, like, make?
Well, again, when I listed and I enumerated a couple ways in which men are disadvantaged.
And we clearly have to agree to disagree on the jail statistics, but furthermore.
Okay, so fine. Let me just, even
So
though
the
I'm
next-
prepared, even if I'm prepared to argue that, let me just totally concede the jail one.
Okay, yeah.
So do
Next problems.
Okay, so suicidality. Men are much more likely to commit suicide in this country. Also, men are much more likely to be homeless. Let's tackle those two.
I agree, and I empathize highly with that. I do.
Do you?
Yeah, I do.
It doesn't, but you just said
I
that
think men
you-
need better mental health resources.
But your position
I've said
was that men are not disadvantaged.
I never
in
said
any-
they're not disadvantaged.
That's literally
I said
what you said.
Women are more disadvantaged.
Okay, so
women are not privileged in contrast to
currently. Tell me something. Tell me a way in which women are disadvantaged compared to men.
We're like 80, not 80 times. I want to get these statistics 100% right, and I don't want to sound vulgar. We are, I guess, 5 times more likely to get SA'd.
I mean, it depends on your definition of that, and then if you incorporate, for example, men who are SA'd in prison facilities, then actually my understanding is that
they're
rather
incorporated in that
equalizes.
statistic, and no, it's not equalized.
I would have to
Women
review the data.
Women are like at least 5 times more likely to be trafficked. We are literally still on a global scale still victimized by the patriarchy. That hence, like, as trafficking rings and things of that nature. Sex work, we could say that, yeah, sex work, I'm thoroughly convinced was established by men because men are policing it to this day.
So women have no agency?
They do, thank God. I think that's why women nowadays feel empowered by OnlyFans, as they've stated, because it's them being able to, like, control themselves and navigate their own bodies and not be
The evil
policed.
patriarchy institutes sex work, and the women with agency
patriarchy
then
has-
go and participate in the sex work. This is a genius argument.
I think you can't hate sex workers when men are constantly abusing sex workers.
Why would, let's assume for a second that, I don't know, the SA rates were 1,000 times between the sexes. How would that prove that men are privileged in society over women?
1,000 times,
Yeah, that women are
like,
1,000 times more likely to be SA'd than men. Yeah.
How would
that
that
prove that men are privileged in society over women? It would just show that women are disadvantaged, biologically in a sense.
But that's
in
my
this one
point. He
particular
said
instance,
women
but it
are
wouldn't show that
privileged.
men-
I'm saying they're not.
Stop.
We
Let
are-
me finish my point before you respond. You're not even listening. You can't wait to talk, so you don't listen.
Your
Relax.
point contradicts what was just said.
My point doesn't contradict it. That's why you need to listen. Even if it were true that it was women were 1,000 times more likely to be SA'd than men, how would that prove that men in society were privileged over women?
I did not say men are privileged over women. I said women are not privileged over men, which is what he stated in the first place and has stated on several occasions.
Yeah, but he said he was giving a statement for the draft that it's a privilege that women are not drafted. That is the case, correct?
No, that's not the only thing he said. He said in general he feels
but in the case
he
of
would
the draft,
argue
let's start
that
with
women
that.
are
Let's
privileged.
just start one thing at a time. Can we just start with the draft? Are women privileged by not having to do the draft?
I don't believe so.
Okay, then what would you
now we're
call
dancing
it?
back.
That only one sex has to do an activity for conscription where they go put their life on the line and may potentially lose it, versus the other sex not having to do that. What would you call that
I'd
besides
call it a
privilege?
choice tragically made by that sex, as proven.
Men
Well,
don't
that
choose.
sex did not collectively make that choice.
Strawman Fallacy donated $100. She stands her argument on men being more likely to be sociopaths, then follows up with "I'm sorry you feel that way." Quintessential gaslighting from someone with zero self-awareness. Matriarchy?
You said it's a choice? It's not a choice to be drafted. That's
No, I didn't say
forced.
it's a choice.
You literally, the word
No,
choice.
I said
choice,
men as a whole, like the men who represented men chose that.
Yeah, okay.
From a
but-
Congress that was all
but
men at
let's-
the time.
Okay,
when only
so
men
yes.
made the
Is anybody
rules.
who's alive right this second, any man who's alive right this second, have a choice in whether or not they're drafted?
Yeah, the ones in Congress.
The men who are conscripted, do they have a choice in being conscripted or not?
You're not. There's no draft right now. Who knows?
That's
They
not
might
my question.
They might not
If there
ever
was a
enforce
draft
that.
right now, would men? If there was a draft right now, would the men who got drafted have a choice in being drafted or not?
We just danced way back from where we were at in this conversation.
Yeah, can you answer my question now?
I already did.
Yeah, can you answer it
Multiple
again?
times.
Can the men? Can
We
the men
just
who are
danced all the way
conscripted, right?
back to the draft from way into past policing. We were on a whole new layer, and
Yeah, I
now
know.
we're all the way back to me reiterating the same shit.
Yeah, I know. So can we get back to that? So anyway, the conscription portion of
You
this.
could talk to yourself.
So you just
Because I'm
won't
not going to
answer the
repeat
question?
myself. No,
You're just not
I'm
gonna answer
not
the
dancing
question.
back to the same shit we just talked about. You can literally talk to yourself
She's
about
trying
shit if you
to.
still
She's
don't
trying
agree
to
with
evade.
me on it.
You're trying to evade.
Yeah, you're
So-
being very, you're
No,
you're
we
doing
just
everything
talked about
possible
So, I mean,
let's
how
go-
about-
to answer the
let's
question.
push forward to where we no, because we
You're
already
not.
discussed
Hold on.
those.
Stop. You're not going to dictate the terms and the flow of the
But like
conversation.
I said, then he can talk to himself. Like I already
Then
answered
you can
this.
leave. You can leave. Go ahead.
You're a bitch. Like on God.
You're a fucking bitch,
No,
and
you're
I'm
a
glad you're
bitch,
getting kicked
'cause
out of here.
You wouldn't say shit like this to me if I was with my man.
I'd say
You
it
have
to your
so many
face too, you stupid
you
bitch.
have
Get outta
so
here.
many balls to talk crazy to women, but you don't got no guts to talk like
That,
this to a man.
that. Get out of here.
You are a bunch of pussies with little dicks.
You didn't play this out. Oh, I didn't? Oh, okay. Hold on.
This is Sparta!
Can I ask you how many cigarettes have you lit?
He seems stressed.
I was gonna ask, is that
Very
in
stressful.
relationship to how stressed you are?
Tell her to message the Instagram page.
That I smoke?
With it after the show. She can message the IG page and we'll get it handled.
You do realize that people smoke cigarettes, right?
Yes, I do. I'm just wondering how many you've smoked in the course of this show.
I don't know. It's a long show. Probably quite a few.
Oh, okay. That escalated. I just like look up every 5 seconds and see a new one. I just thought it was interesting.
God. Okay. I mean, if she's going to be rude to Andrew.
Look, she started by calling you a bitch. That's the only reason I responded. Because she's like, you're a little bitch. So I was like, well, if you're going to talk shit, you know.
Oh, didn't I start kicking her off before that?
Yeah, but she
Yeah.
responded with, you're a little bitch. So it's like, well.
Oh, and then you
it's-
started shit talking?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, no, but it's like, even before that, when you were like trying to engage with her in good faith in the conversation, and then she's like, oh, well, we already moved on from that, so I'm not going to continue engaging with you. It's just like, that's just, okay, get out then at that point, you know? So, good times. Okay, I think we're going to wrap up here pretty soon. Oh my God. Yo, but hey, Andrew, thank you for having my back there, man. Appreciate it.